to our emotions, to our memories. And at the same time, these parts of brains are making us human. So stories help us to remember. Stories connect us. That's why they're so important. I like very much this quote because I found here something even more important, that what is happening in our mind during we tell stories. Stories also change us. So there is feedback. By using stories, we can change our lives. Because it is everything about our presentations we have in the world, and these presentations also influence like a feedback to us. So Polona is a psychologist, and she knows a lot about this. By changing our stories, we are going to change our lives. But here we are not, I'm not coming from the research part of our community. I'm coming from computer science part of, here I'm teaching introductory programming, artificial intelligence and stuff like this. That's why I'm talking why digital stories are so important. Digital stories give us opportunity to combine different kind of media and to express ourselves. So it goes beyond traditional storytelling. We can use, for example, animation, sounds. We can use non-linear actions and interactions to their story. Here, I will show you. Can you hear? This is my text, which is used with generative artificial intelligence. So now we can hear how strong is generative artificial intelligence. The voice is almost human, but you can hear very nice English in comparison with me. I'm going to talk about the history of storytelling. I'll give you the pedagogical background, and I'll give some examples how I use storytelling with our students here at Faculty of Education. So maybe we will get some ideas how to make assessment of stories, how to organize the project work about storytelling. So I will start with classical storytelling. Do you know this quote? We tell ourselves stories in order to live. This is very strong. Joan Dion died in 2021 or 22, I think, and she's a great storyteller. I think that we have our favorite story. Do we have a person who will tell us which story is great? Or
Pippi Longstocking.
Oh. Why?
Because she was brave. She was doing things that normally parents wouldn't let you do. So.
Somebody, others? For,
like telling our story of our family.
yes, also.
That's why I don't understand what you were asking.
I'm asking for your great story from your childhood, maybe, but not necessary. What is the story which was very important to you in one period of time?
Little Prince for me.
Little Prince, yes, great, great for me too, and for my father also. The great. For me, The Little Match Girl. Do you know? Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah.
And by that time, I was dreaming that one day there will be a time machine and I will go there and help her because she was so poor. I was dreaming about her all the time.
I think mine was the hedgehog house.
Mhm.
Branko Topic,
Wow. Mhm.
Ježeva Pišita.
Mhm. Wow. Mhm. Nice. So we identify with these stories. We feel strongly with them. But storytelling is very, very old. As old as our civilization. Maybe 40,000 years ago, in El Castillo cave, human beings, for the first time, draw something. This drawing was maybe about mythology, maybe about hunting, maybe just their imagination, but we think that it is about hunting. And by this, they tell something about their habits, about their way of living. This painting is in Altamira. It is about, wait, it is about 13, 14,000 years before Christ. So stories are very, very old. I think you know what is it. Do you know what it is? Odyssey. Yes, Odyssey. This is Odyssey. So it is also story. And do you know what is this? Dante Alighieri. Yes. Yeah. And this is just imagination. Verona. Of course. Romeo and Juliet. Yes. Shakespeare. I will start with the great storytellers which influenced our whole culture. I think you know Homer, Socrates, Aristotle. Homer with Odyssey and Iliad, and he was almost blind, but his stories are still alive. And Socrates was mainly philosopher, but because of his dialectic way, dialectic method, he was a great storyteller. And Aristotle, he defined the story arc by the tragedy. Story arc is very, very important. So these guys, we still talk about these guys because they are great storytellers. I think that Shakespeare and Tolstoy, they know a lot about psychology, they know everything. So they make very complex story, and we can feel this complex story. We can learn from these characters in their novels, in their narratives. Walt Disney, new media bring new ways of storytelling. So I think that maybe my generation used like very much cartoons and stuff like this. At the same time, we can sing, we can tell stories by singing. Bob Dylan got Nobel Prize because of his way of telling stories, and Bruce Springsteen because of his social poetry is very well known in the United States. But there are other ways of telling stories. You can, I think you know Oprah because she's touching social thematics and stuff like this. And maybe for us, people from technology, Steve Jobs is also so well known because he knows how to make technology which contains very strong story. Because he was not so great as technology, he was great in his ideas and strategies how to pack ideas and technology.
Stories from the future.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I think that you know also that he's also of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory of Matilda. He's #1 storyteller in the world. And he's also well known, not only like a writer, he was also a pilot, spy, chocolate historian, and also medical inventor. He was a Renaissance kind of man. He was great. But he's touching us with his story still. Also, science needs a way to be taught to all the students. Communicating science is also maybe one of the most important things for all the teachers. For example, Carl Sagan and Stephen Hawking, I think you know them. For example, there is a series done of scientific books, and also there is the movie Contact done by him. Short history of time by Hawking. And he was handicapped, but he found different ways to tell his stories. I'll continue also with communicating sciences, because for us it is important to use history and truth to communicate. For example, Richard Dawkins was an evolutionary biologist, and he wrote Selfish Gene, and by this he made big progress in biology explanation. Brian Greene is a physicist, and he is well known for his string theory in physics. Now I think that it's on Netflix very popular three-body problem, and it is based on string theory. So Bill Nye, he was mechanical engineer, but he was called in the United States a science boy, and Slavoj Žižek is for our environment well known because he is telling stories all the way about philosophy. He put Slovenia on the map of philosophy. But here, University of Ljubljana is also very, very well known for storytelling. I think that you heard Jože, so I will not talk about him. So I have opportunity to talk about our rector, the head of our university, who is working on science, on neuroscience. He's neuroscientist and writer, and he is also writing novels. Roman Jerala, he is also a great scientist, and he was very active during the Corona time by communicating scientific stories to us in very simple way. And the fourth is Alois Ikan, the teacher of our children. He's at the same time, he's not only microbiologist and immunologist, he is also writer and poet. And he said that, please hear this, because it is related to your project. Here leads to facility, communication, thinking, activates, and facilitates. So this is the point of this project. Here in Slovenia, we have many sources. We can start from our portals, we can start from our media, we can start from our scientific journals. For example, with our students, I'm using a portal called Parkadabra, which is maintained by Sasha Dolen. And our students are generating stories based on scientific stories on that portal. I will also quickly go through two quotes given by two great minds. For example, Freeman Dyson said that science is not collection of truth, it's a continuing exploration of mysteries. And also, maybe Green, who is physicist, said that our education must be settled in science and in right way of telling stories. Now I will continue with different types of stories. I think that this project is grounded that.
Important stories, I would like to ask you something
Yeah.
about the differences between tales and stories.
Oh.
Because nowadays, especially maybe in last 10 years in Turkey, it's very popular to use telling tales
Mhm.
to the children's
Yeah.
education, especially the tales from the Anatolian part of Turkey or Middle
Mhm.
Asia, the cultural traditional tales. We use this kind of tales for the children, especially the little ones, to teach them how to be fair, how to be a good person or something like that. So is it the same thing to use the stories like this in education, or are there some differences between using storytelling and things? Do you understand what I mean?
Yes. In February, I finished a project Coding Code, which was led by Pamukkale University, and we used also we have the same question or problem because our leader said that we must use fairy tales. So fairy tales is a kind of story, but narrative and storytelling is much wider. So this is a special case of storytelling, but it must be, it must come from people who said that it must be story which is orally told by people. So we decided to use just fairy tales in this project. But as I show you, I think that narratives are much stronger. For example, narratives given by Princeton, or also some narratives which are given in poetry or by singing.
Some of them are using some drums to use or costumes or like this.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, role playing. I will talk also about role playing. Yes. So I think that the project is grounded in the first part, personal narrative. But here I don't know if you are using fairy tales or not. I think that you are using personal narratives in this project.
Mostly stories, right? In the project, yeah, stories.
Yes, yes. So it could be story about character. It could be memorial story. It could be story about event or place. It could be story about what we do, what we're interested in. It could be recovery, discovery. It could be even love story. There are also some historical events which could be put in the story. It could be used in the classroom with children which are aged between, for example, 9 to 15, to remember on the local events, to remember to people which were very important in this place. We can use these tools also to develop information in media literature. For us, for teachers, maybe the most important are curricular content stories, which could be related to our curricular goals, or we can use stories to make motivation or testimonials also. Pedagogical background of stories is very, very, very strong. So if you read the scientific literature about digital storytelling, you can find that stories develop literacy, they develop active participation. For example, they develop digital competencies and at the same time, the cognitive competencies, something which we usually call computational thinking, which is very modern thing of explaining how we develop cognitive things with children, mainly between 6 to 15 years, but computational thinking is developed further till the end of our education or till while we are living still. So the pedagogical background also relates to role playing, but also to developing other soft skills, for example, interpersonal, Polona knows a lot about this, and communicational, transversal leadership, and stuff like this. Teachers found that digital stories are multidimensional, and by this, we can develop very, very different things. Before I continue with this workshop, so maybe I will explain what I want to say now, but I also call you to start with storytelling here, maybe. I want to say that also infographic, also data visualization is about storytelling. If we have only data is just lying there, it's not important. So we need story and we need knowledge about design, and we must know how to share this to make something great. So here is some example of data visualization, but this is also just one part of one bigger story, which would give us a view what is happening. Before I continue with storytelling, may I ask, I'm using storytelling. Do you know what is storytelling?
Yeah, yes.
Yes? Can I ask you just to start with storytelling just by coming here and making our story? So I need 9 people. I think 9, yeah. I told it. You prefer to sit, or I'll give you the squares and we will start with one sentence and we will develop story. Is it okay for you?
Yes.
Okay. So you get two opportunities. One is to come here and to take square and to tell a sentence which is related to the symbol which is in the front surface. Other is to give creative to come around. If you come, you can select. If you don't come, I'll just give you.
Okay, so it was a beautiful day. All the group gathered outside the class.
Can you tell me that?
It was a beautiful day. The whole group, all the group gathered outside the class. Now you can continue.
But the picture was castle.
Yeah, like the picture is castle. Yes.
The second. Okay. Nice.
Simple as that. They all opened their books and started to read their stories.
Nice. The next one.
And there is a hand. And suddenly one of the members of the group said, "Hey, listen to me."
Should I come, please? Come.
Forgive me, sir. Yes.
Okay. Hey, listen to me, okay? There is an airplane. Right? So the person said, hey, listen to me. I see an airplane over there in the sky, but also I see a strange black fume coming out of it.
Oh, wow. Nice.
But this is the climax now.
This is the climax now, yeah, thank you, yes, climax. Yes, climax now. The next, well, this is the most interesting part. Please come. Wow, wow, you have very interesting things here. To solve the problem. Yes, yes, yes. I could.
The black fumes, yeah.
Yes, 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 yes.
The picture or the icon is the light pink. And with the stop, listen to me. There is an airplane going and there's a lot of black fumes coming out. I believe there was a lightning strike. Odin!
Now we should move.
This is already used.
Parachute.
Yes, yes.
And thanks God, some of the passengers used their parachutes to save their life. So calm down.
Yes. The next one, everything is going in the right direction. You know, we are helping people, you know.
Stars. And the Odin. Again Odin. Tell the Medusa and come and gather their stars. After the
Yeah.
passengers.
Oh.
Had
Over there.
Oh. We have just two. Just one sentence for the end. Maybe we don't need to.
I think that one of the symbols was L,
Yes.
square.
Yes, L.
I guess that happened because the pilot was still learning. how
Yes,
to drive.
we're still learning, that's why. And, but there is solution. No?
So there's an idea of not going to the biggest cloud with Odin's lightning bolts when you're trying to learn how to fly an
Thank
airplane.
you. Thanks. Now have your own story. I just want to tell something again, that visual storytelling is something which is still related to storytelling. We have still characters, we still have settings, we still have plot. So I just want to remind you, because after that, I will move to digital storytelling. So I'm starting with the most important thing, with storytelling, and I'm moving to digital storytelling. So, characters. This is not my field, but this is my mother's field. But anyway, I think that if you want to tell a story, you must know the character. You must know him or her very well. You must know the personality of the protagonist and antagonist. You must know and imagine how this character looks, what she said what she thinks, felt, how she or he behaves, and what others think about this character. So it is very important if you tell a story to know everything about this. But the character could tell a story in very individual way, static or developmental way. So it is up to you. You can make selections. Jean Guillaume said something very, very important about the character. The willingness to accept responsibility for one's own life is the source from which self-respect springs. This is very strong. So you must have empathy to feel the character. And by this, you're making changes in your mind. The second very important thing is the setting of the story. So you must think about the country, about the time, about the weather conditions, about the social conditions, about the atmosphere. Everything is important. Also, the plot is important. Without carrying the plot, there is not story. So I think that we feel this. After the author must think how to organize the event in a sequence. But we must do this in a very causal way. Story arc is still the same from the time of Aristotle. Here we have introduction, here we have rising action, we have climax, we have falling action, and we have resolution. I'm not familiar with this intellectual part of storytelling, but I'm so happy that I have teachers who are more, more in this than me. So this is still storytelling. So maybe that's why this activity could be done as multidisciplinary, as cross-curriculum activity by connecting many colleagues to make very relevant things together. But for us, for example, it was interesting to work together with didactic teachers, for example, from the field of social sciences, also with people who are teaching literature here. So it is great experience.
So are there any approaches or techniques you use storytelling in normal lessons?
Yes.
You understand what I mean? For example, in teaching English language, let's say, there are some approaches like total physical response or communicative language teaching, etc. For example, is it possible to use storytelling techniques in teaching history, math, or science, or something
Yes,
like
of
that?
course.
Are there some approaches about it?
Today I'm not talking about this. I'm talking how to make project work with students. But I think that I mentioned these great storytellers, and as a teacher, we start with motivation, and if we make things real, if we make things somehow to touch the people, this is kind of storytelling. If we mention something which are relevant, which are important for children, yes.
For example, in my practice,
Mhm.
I was working with a teacher that was dealing with the thematic in history of dinosaurs.
Mhm.
So, and in the meantime, she wanted to speak about legends. So I started with a legend of dragons in Asia and how it's a different cultural approach about dragons, because in Europe, dragons are seen like not so good creatures, but in Asia it's different.
Mhm.
So I started with that, with a fictional history, and we discussed about all the characteristics of a fictional legend. And then we talked about in history, what is the difference about fictional and non-fictional, so the traces,
Mhm.
and we talked about fossils. And with that, I I had a match with history. So I started with a storytelling and then.
With science, yes,
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
super, thank you.
I also want to answer your question. I think there's not a certain approach, but it depends on the lecture's objective. For example, I got a lesson last semester. Its name was critical reading, and there were some stories, and they were from the English literature, English language and literature. We were reading the stories, and the lecturer was asking to us to think about the characters, the pilots, and she was asking us their features, their qualities, their personal characters. She was asking all of the questions in the story, and we were analyzing them very, very nice. We were thinking all of the stories, and she was asking from every character questions. We were asking a lot of things. We can think about them and we answer them. And when she asked us about a character, what is she doing or what is he doing, we were thinking about it and we were realizing different approaches and different events, and we were taking lessons from the stories. I think the story's main objective is to discuss and realize new things. And also we can apply to our real lives, in our lives.
Yes, I completely agree. I'm so happy I have masters here for psychology.
Yeah, just a little example, so from my school years, I remember when in physics classes, when we have been covering the Archimedes law.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a legend that the emperor asked Archimedes to check whether his car was made of pure gold or there are some concentrations of silver. So Archimedes succeeded in this task. So a teacher asked us to put this story onto poetry, to write poetry regarding this story. And because of having elaborated this task in a poetry form, I remember basically the better, maybe deeper, the physical principle behind, and so quite a good was quite a good task and exercise.
So what I understood from the answers of our friends is that yes, we can, some teachers use these storytellings or stories in their lessons to teach some points to the students in physics or in dragons with dragons. But with your answer, I understood that there is no general approach how to use this technique in other lessons or.
It's about personal skills. Sorry, can I give an example that I really, really like? Because it's history through Facebook conversation. The Second World War, and it goes like this. I'm just going to read a few answers. So you've got Tsar Reimann, Austria, and Czechoslovakia joined the group, the Third Reich. Then you have the United Kingdom. Should I probably step in now before this becomes a problem? But it's fine. I'm the biggest empire in the world. I'm not worried. And then Germany says to Russia, hey, is it cool if we smack Poland? And Russia says, wanna split it? Promise I won't fight you. If the UK freaks out. Germany, okay. Japan, hey, what about our deal to hate Russia? Germany, I really, really want Poland. So, you have a kind of a role play, and you've got loads of events that are really difficult to remember. But I think that through a game, storytelling like this, I mean, you can really get everyone involved. Think about the role of their character in the story.
It is not on the, it's not trivial, but you should think, and the story is continuing.
Never ends.
But very important is always to think that we need conflict in the story. We need this. Without conflict, it is just boring. There is no dynamics without conflict. There is no development of the story. We just have random events without conflict. So we have to put something in the conflict to be solved later. So that's why we should think about the main idea about the topic, which could be internal, external, which could be individual, which could be with society, circumstances, and stuff like this.
And it makes us curious what's gonna happen.
Yes, that's why we need conflict. And the conflict is maybe also strongly related with the message, as you said, because before we finish the story, we must think about the message. For example, love is blind, or believe in yourself, or people are afraid of changes, or don't judge a book by its cover. This is just a message. But now I'm moving to, maybe for me, this part is the most important because this is methodological part, which we usually use together with students. And this is done by Robin in 2008. I think that we started to use this in 2009. So we have experience this version. Yeah. So this method is grounded in 7 elements. The first element is point of view. You don't need to write because I'll give all my PowerPoint to the project. So of course, point of view is something which we already discussed. So we have many opportunities. So what is the perspective while we are talking the story? Is it innocent, like of eyes of a child? Is it a stream of different thoughts by different readers? So the story could move from one head to other to give a perspective. Is it the first person, the protagonist is telling the story, or it is moving all the time, or somebody is talking which is not involved? Again, stories are not just facts. So I will not give the examples because we don't have time. I'm just move from element to element, but I'll just give you example of pacing, because pacing is something which we don't think about it, but it is very, very important, which is done by sounds and stuff like this. But that's why I'll show you just one example. Dramatic question is strongly related to dramatic triangle story arc, to the story arc. We should think about the sequence of events. We should think about the language which is used in the story. So if we use stories like educational stories, we must use very simple language. If we use stories for our colleagues, the language could be, of course, more rich. Also, we should think about the audience expectations. We're going to resolve them, or we are leaving a space for thinking. It is okay. Maybe for young people, is somehow interesting. They don't want to think about this element, about emotional content. They are feeling very strongly, but somehow this element is forgotten, or it is maybe cheap for them. But in our role of teacher, we must push them to express their emotions, because if we teach children, how old are children, your students? Which age group? 10 years to 15, okay. They somehow feel that they should not express their emotions, but we should make and give them examples to put them in this role. Because at the same time, emotion elements which are pushing the audience to see into the story. The fourth element is voice. I usually said that the most beautiful stories are told by the first person narrator. So we should make recording of real voice, not like my first example done by artificial intelligence, but my voice is the best selection for the narration because my voice is something which is familiar to my students. So also we want our students to use their own voice to tell their own stories. There's also some interesting effect that after the recording, we don't like our voice. It's very normal. It's very normal because we're hearing our voice in different way than the recording voice. Also, we can use music to make dynamics in the story. We can use sound effects to increase the tension in the story. We can use, I prefer to use instrumental music because if we use also human voice, we have interweaving of two stories. So maybe it's clear just using instrumental music. The sixth element is economy. Good stories usually take 2 or 3 minutes only. This is done by cognitive, the analysis is done by cognitive psychologists, which know that we can have 2 or 3 minutes good, yes. And that's why it is important to remove all the non-necessary elements from the story. Because by this, we will keep the attention for 2 or 3 minutes. But I'm talking a little bit about video. It's also interesting that we can use movement in the story and transition, which are informative, which suggest changes. Metaphors can also be used instead of classical text storytelling. Now, I will use examples from the internet to demonstrate how important is pacing. If we have fast pacing, we are telling something exciting. If we use slow pacing, we have meditative atmosphere, but the pacing will change and the music will change the story. As we just use story for project work usually, and I will give you the whole steps of the methodology. It is based on constructivist learning environment, and we usually use stories to make learning with meaning. It is really suitable for different groups of learners. That's why I think that you use this methodology in the project. But mainly, I think that the project done together with students is still rather complex, and it is not so simple to be done. That's why I will go step by step, how to organize students, how to make assessment, because we have to make assessment here. Now we know that it is great methodology to develop digital competencies and also to develop computational thinking. Maybe so the workflow is like this. First step is to select the theme, the main topic. We should use one topic or a group of topics which are comparable. For example, here stories should be linked to the project topics, but the presentation of the topic must be done by the teacher, and the goals of the stories must be done by the teacher. Otherwise, we have very big diversity. The second step is work plan. So you can make your own choice. You can organize individual work. You can organize also work in pairs or in people. You should also allocate the role, make allocation of the roles in the group, and you should define the deadlines. For example, one will be will have responsibilities of organizing the work. The other one will put all materials together. The third one will take care of using of tools and stuff like this. We usually in real world said that one is organizer, the second is narrator, the third is the guy who is making monitoring of the process. You can make organization which is suitable to the students you are involving. Also, this is maybe the moment when you talk about the environment. For example, maybe you are going to use cloud technologies to save all the materials. Maybe you are going to use some channel for communication. And what is the final program which is going to be used to make a story? It could be, for example, it could be Canva. It's up to you. It could be also iMovie Maker, iMovie. It could be also just movie. It's up to you. The third step is very, very important. Before we start with making realistic plans, I think that your students must write a script. Script is something which is for 100 words to 300 words. And how could be done? We have different methods. It could be done personally, and all group members stick together and read all the stories. They can select one beautiful story, they can merge stories, but you have to tell them this is collaborative work. This is work which could be done like one for everybody. By this, we are teaching how to share ideas. We want them to grow up in people who are sharing. After the brainstorming and after making decision of one story or merge of stories, it is time to start with storyboarding. Do you know the technique of storyboarding? Here you have an example of storyboarding, and please take one and pass it. I think that without storyboarding, it is very difficult to make all these elements by Robin to be real, because it is very usual to start with the idea and to use 5 steps until the climax and 2 steps after the climax. And this story is not balanced, you know, because introduction is full of work, usually. So that's why we are pushing our students to make things in a very structured way. After that, because this is time-consuming stuff. Here, we are collecting, our students are collecting materials, putting into the cloud. They're communicating, but they must communicate at least 3 times in personal, so face to face. They can communicate digitally, but it is important to meet each other. But it is very important to meet each other at least 3 times. When we have storyboards, we are also processing our material. This is period in which we use technology to educate our students about licenses, about how to use the data. They should not use also personal data in the materials. We should educate a lot our students about how to use and what to use. This is about digital competencies and development. And after that, we have period of compiling the story, and we will use special software for compiling the story. It's up to you, Storyboard or etc., or Canva, or maybe I don't know. But story is now compiled. The first section must be done inside the group. And in the moment when one is not so happy with the story, he should react and make things better, because it is our responsibility. There is no space for, I don't like this story, but these 2 guys do it. You should make this atmosphere among these, your students. After this, students are sharing the stories inside the wider group. And stories are usually assessed by their colleagues. This is the storyboard you used. Now I can tell you our experience with these methods. We use for very young children storytelling to make some abstract terms easier. For example, for Razredni pouk with the primary school teachers, it is the route from home to school, because the space is too abstract. And also time, days in the week, months in the year. For students who are studying arts, so color, shape, my way. For second level students, for example, it's very difficult to understand biodiversity. And we usually use these methods to teach introductory programming. That's my job. So I use storytelling mainly during the summer schools to pull them into the role of storytellers, and they learn programming. But we even don't think that we are learning hard programming. And we are using very difficult context. For example, we are using event synchronization, and they're doing like, because they have goals, because their character needs something. So they're teaching also complex things by these methods. Also, we used once, maybe 15 years ago, I don't know how long ago, with PhD students, and they presented by digital stories their PhD thematics. So it was successful. We have a variety of programs which could be used. As I said, I usually use Scratch. I usually use Scratch. I also use Storyboard. I use Story Jumper. And I like very much Canva. Do you know Canva? Yes. Your teachers, please use the opportunity to have teachers account, because they don't like to give me. I have just ordinary account, and you can make classes, you can do with Canva very great things.
It depends if you're in school year.
Yes, here in school.
It doesn't go.
I know. And I don't like this. but it is true. I in my caption, it is in my title that is that we can use also artificial intelligence. But I want to tell you something which is very important. Artificial intelligence is never used instead of teachers. Artificial intelligence is used like our partner. I think that we are using somehow GPT. You can hear that my English is not perfect. That's why I ask GPT. Sometimes GPT is doing great things about this. He's correcting me. So we can use, and also your students could use, for example, GPT for improvement of the language abilities, but the narratives must be written by themselves. So they can write very direct prompts. I will show you how to write the prompts. Also, I like very much this way, this software. I will show you how I use it. I already use this software to generate from text to audio.
Is this mobile application?
This is also mobile, but I use desktop application. I think that the most popular are ChatGPT and Midjourney. I think that you know this. That we will need maybe 2 or 3 hours to talk about prompt definition. We must take care about these things. We should use very simple language, but when asking generative artificial intelligence, we should not use artificial intelligence about topics we are not familiar, because it is not it is not reliable, and yes, it is hallucinating. Yes, and if we don't know anything about this topic, we could generate in the name of artificial intelligence hallucinations.
Yes.
Because we are science on the top of this. So that's why we should use in very careful way. For example, for structuring, for example, for language correction, and maybe for very simple things, like some things like I'll show you a little bit later. As I told you in the beginning, very powerful stories are done almost manually by using iMovie. Also shortcut Blender Canva. But it's up to you, and you know your students. Are they enough skillful for this or not? I think that the publication of story is very important. You can you have already defined environment where to publish the story. So YouTube is a kind of repository, but please be careful. You can use a special kind of publications, unpublished type, by giving the link. It could be visible only inside the group, but take care to not to be shared, because I think that you will develop personal stories. So maybe it is not so good idea to be shared in public. I don't know. Now maybe because we are teachers, we should think about the evaluation. We use some kind of peer evaluation of the project. So now is the moment when the stories are going to be told among the peers. We must define the criteria for assessment before we start the storytelling. In our case, it is the first criteria is usually, is the content tailored to the target audience? is the story, content, clarity, and structure of the story good enough? Does this story have story arc? This is general criteria. But it was interesting that stories which are based on 7 elements, which was suggested by Robin, are usually the most powerful. At the same time, because it was project work, we usually connected this project work with development of digital competencies. And we also decided the group to make all the material from the blog. And we, as teachers, can see the development of the story. So it is not only on the last product, but we have the development line. So that's why we use blog. But there's something interesting. One story is usually done by group. For example, among prospective primary school teachers, we use groups which are not too big, 3 members or 4, but not more, because we are losing the monitoring abilities. So we said, here we have anonymous form, and in this form, please please share the points among the members of the group, but take care about each criteria, some of the points to be 0. Because in the moment you said the story is finished, you agreed with it. You are part of the group. So if you think that you use all your time to make story, if you think that you are involved too much in the story, you can give yourself 6 points, it is anonymous, but you should give -3, -2, -1 to others. And now we have 0. And it's interesting. I was saying that, oh no, it is not good. We are good colleagues. We don't want this in the beginning. And they said, okay, we will use just the first criteria. Don't worry, I will not use it. And the time goes. And maybe 2 days before the presentation, they usually come to me again and said, can you use intergroup assessment? And I said, okay, it's up to you. And they want to use because it is always like this. But it is interesting that sometimes we have criteria ideas for one person very strong, and usually promoting not so strong. We also make analysis by means of machine learning tools, and we found that the most important criteria is consideration of others. If you want to make project work with others, it is not very important to work on content. It is more important to take care about others and to take into account their opinions. So,
But that only functions if everybody does it,
yes,
at least in some part.
we need not passive members. We need members which take care. Yes. But it works anyway, it works.
Passive is still better than being in the victim
both, okay.
position.
Yes.
Better nothing than being the one that needs to be considered at all times.
Yes, yes. As I told you, we use this method for development of digital competencies. We use the comp model, which is based on 5 pillars. They said that the orange part is that they said that they developed this part of this prompt. They think that this method is helping them. And at the same time, we used, this is the kind of project work which was done by Alenka Jerome in the classroom. And it is not only about the comp, it is about developing other competencies, for example, personal, social, cultural, stuff like this. And I have maybe 2 examples, but you can see my examples if I give you my PowerPoint. The both are done by students of arts teachers. Simple methods, simple things to combine technology and creativity. Technology is here, and it is no problem to reach the technology. But at the same time, technology is somehow distracting our students. It is not easy, but it is possible also to develop a honest way of building digital artifacts. For example, we can use Creative Commons licenses for our material. We can take care about this. The evaluation is somehow also difficult because it is artistic work anyway, and we can have personal opinion about the topic which will be reflected. So we must take care that we are also somehow involved like a biased person in this situation. I use this for digital storytelling. The topic strongly influences the competences. For example, I use topics like maze, driving, escape room. Escape room is beautiful topic. Escape room could be used even in your environment. Flappy birds like holes was very interesting for holes. And I want to finish by maybe by Pepper to okay, maybe, do you know Pepper? Pepper was for us, who are coming from computer science, very important because he said that teachers should create conditions for invention in the classroom. And Mitch Resnick is the author of Scratch. He's the author. And he said the best way to help people and is to provide opportunity to explore experiments and to create. And maybe for the final part, I'll show you the artificial intelligence